Hi there, welcome or welcome back to the Books R Us. Today I'm back with Read, Read or Read, round 2. A couple of months ago I did this video in which I read a book written by Ava Reid and a book written by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I called it Read versus Read. And I compared two books and I decided who won that round. And then I promised that I would do another round in 2025, and we're there. I already finished two books, one by each of these authors. The first book that I read was Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. In order to read this book, I first reread Macbeth by William Shakespeare to make sure that I wouldn't miss anything in this book. But after reading this one, I can tell you that you do not necessarily have to read Macbeth. You can just read this book on its own. It is definitely a book that can be read on its own. But if you have read Macbeth, then it's easier to pick up the elements that are from the original play, although Ava Reid definitely adapts all those elements into her own story. Now, when I started reading this book, I did not like it at first. It took me about 100 pages to get into this one, and I believe that was my problem the last time as well, when I read A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. With that book, it also took me a while to get into the book. This is because Ava Reid writes in a style that keeps you at a distance. It doesn't involve you straight away like other books might. Now, this is actually too bad because she definitely has a wonderful writing style. I love that her language is very poetic. Parts of this book I started to underline just because of the language. It is so interesting. I also really love the way that she adapted the elements of Macbeth and made them all return in this book, but in a very different manner than you would expect, which was nice because it doesn't make it a simple retelling, but it sort of makes it an own invention or reinvention of the story. Now, of course, I have to tell you what this one is actually about. In this book, we follow Rosalie, Lady Rosalie, who was born in France, and she is the bastard daughter of a duke in France. And there are tales about her that she was touched by a witch when she was younger. And because of that, she can influence all men, not women, but men, who look into her eyes. And because of that, she has to walk around with a veil as to not entice men or make men do things that they wouldn't normally do. Right. Now, because of politics, Lady Rosalie has to marry Macbeth, Lord Macbeth, who lives in Scotland, which is a very different setting for her. The court is also different because there isn't much of a court in this more like a fortress that she is going to, where she goes to live with Macbeth. And at first she tries to manipulate certain people and tries to form alliances because she is on her own. She very much feels on her own, of course, because she has no one there with her. And she contemplates all these plans to safeguard herself, but then she starts to discover that her husband, that Macbeth, has some secrets of his own. And that is where the story truly takes off. Now, a lot of the content focuses on the differences between men and women, specifically on the differences in power between men and women. So that is very much the focal point of this book. And as I said before, it is kind of hard to get into. I was looking for a way to describe how it feels to read this book, and I want you to imagine that you are looking at this beautiful movie, one of the best movies you've ever seen. It could be a Wes Anderson or a Baz Luhrmann movie or whatever floats your boat, or Christopher Nolan, whatever. But a movie that cinematically you find very compelling, that interests you, that you take one look at and you really have to finish that movie, but you are watching it with the sound off. That is what I came up with to describe how this book feels when you read it. It is beautifully written. You can see everything that is great about it, and still you are behind glass or something. You are not in this book with the characters. And that is what I was missing most in this one. I would definitely say that it is a good book. I do think that the elements were fantastic. But I just, yeah, it falls short for me because I couldn't relate. I couldn't get there with this book. Yeah, too bad. But I will still be reading Ava Reid forever, probably. Now I want to put this book up against another power woman, another book about a power woman, and Taylor Jenkins Reid is definitely about power women. But one that came to mind was Carrie Soto is Back, which I hadn't read yet before. So Carrie Soto is Back is about this tennis player, Carrie Soto, who already had this huge career. She actually set several records, and one of those records is that she won the most Grand Slam tournaments within her career. So she won 20 Grand Slams. And then she retired, and now there is this other tennis player, a female tennis player, who is about to break that record, which compels Carrie Soto to come back out of retirement to make a comeback with the guidance and the coaching of her father, who used to be her coach as well when she was at her height, so to say. And in this book, we start off by seeing what her career was like before. And then we follow her through her training for the Grand Slam. She is playing the 4 Grand Slams. And we see how her matches are going. But we are also following everything that happens beside the field. Everything to do with family, everything to do with love, everything to do with, all that competitiveness and where it comes from or where it stems from. And I had a real blast reading this book. Just like before in that other video, I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I adored. It was fantastic to read and you want to continue reading it. You want to know everything that happens. And the same goes for this one, which I didn't expect at all because it's all about tennis. And I'm not a very sports-like person. I was glad though that I know how tennis works because they do give some explanation in here, but they sort of expect you to know a bit about tennis actually, because you are following all these matches as well. It is definitely interesting to know how the scoring system works and how things work, like the change of serve and things like that. And The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was a better book. I have to be honest about that one. I think that one would interest even more people than this one would, just because this one is so focused on this world of tennis, which is a bit more secluded than that whole Hollywood world. But to make me so utterly interested in this team, which is not a team for me normally at all, I think that shows pure talent. It is magnificent that she was able to do that. And I want to read all the books that are written by Taylor Jenkins Reid just because I know that I will like them. I know that I will want to finish them. If they are all written, of course, like these two. So after both of those reviews, my conclusion would be that Taylor Jenkins Reid once again won a round, and the last round, because I will stop doing these Reid versus Reid videos. First off, because Taylor Jenkins Reid won 2 rounds now, and it was best out of 3. But also because I feel that I should stop trying to compare both of these writers because they are so totally different. It's like, it's not even like comparing apples to oranges. It's like comparing apples to igloos or something. They are very different in style. These are these gothic fantasy books, and these are contemporary fiction, and it just doesn't feel right to keep comparing the both of them because there really isn't anything to compare between the two. So far for Reid versus Reid. And I would recommend both of these books, but to different people. Just for me, I got more enjoyment out of reading this one. But yeah, I like this one too, but in a very different way. All right. I don't know if that was helpful at all for you, but if it was, please give this video a like, comment if you have any opinions on these books yourself. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, because it would mean a lot to me and my channel. And I hope to see you soon in another video. Bye!